Welcome back to the first team. Joe DeLeone and Ryan Roberts. We're doing yet another scouting report episode. We're moving on to tight ends, which this year's tight end class, Ryan, is not the same as it was last year. But the one key difference, and we're going to get into this. I have some wild takes that I'm going to throw out there for one individual.
Okay.
I just will say I don't think we're going to go down the same path we did with Michael Mayer with Brock Bowers. I think that there are less, and I said this a couple shows ago, the opposite. I just think with Brock Bowers, and I'm not trying to get too far ahead of ourselves here, there's more applicable traits for the modern NFL that I can't imagine anyone is going to do mental gymnastics on. But that being said, I mean, how do you think the whole class looks just before we get into breaking down Brock Bowers from Georgia and Jatavian Sanders from Texas?
It's grown on me a lot, actually. At first,
Really?
I was like, yeah, it has. At first, I was kind of just like, this is Brock Bowers and a couple of solid players, and then a whole lot of question marks. But the deeper I get into it, I'm going to tell you this, Joe. I guess a quick little heads up. When we do our ranking show, there's at least one tight end that's going to be on my top 5 that we have not watched together this week. So there's some guys that I found, man. There's some guys that I found, and I'm like, I can get excited about a few of these guys. So I think the depth in this class is going to end up being a whole lot better than what I initially thought of it. So I'm excited, man. I'm especially excited because there's one player that I don't want to say found, right? Because plays on a Power 5 team. Like it's not like a found thing, but one guy that I came across where I'm like, oh, I can get behind this. So I think there's some stars to be had in this tight end group.
Yeah, there are some interesting names that kind of stuck around, and we're gonna end up unpacking all of that this over the next week or so, breaking down these tight ends for 2024. Brock Bowers, let's start with him. Before I go on my little bit here with him, what background can you provide for Bowers? Because one thing I will say that's really funny about him before you provide any of that recruiting context and all that stuff, him coming from Napa, California and playing at Georgia is such a strange background for a guy this talented. It almost makes you wonder how the hell they even found him. But nonetheless, he's been probably the best tight end in college football, second to maybe Michael Mayer's production last year. Very early on in his career as a true sophomore so far.
Well, he's an interesting player because, to your point, he's a California kid out of Napa. But Joe, I was looking at the recruiting rankings because I think that's a fun way to start conversations. And he was a consensus 4-star player across the board. So it's not like he was a under-recruited player. I mean, he's at the University of Georgia, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't in the top 100 of any recruiting ranking. I think the highest he ranked was like number 102 nationally by 247 Sports, I think was the highest, which is still very good. But there was one, I believe it was ESPN ranked him as only the number 212 player nationally in the country. So there was kind of a little bit of a wide opinion of Brock Bowers, the recruits coming out of Napa. And I really don't think that he was quite as hyped up as I would think that he would have been. Because, I mean, he came into college football and he lit the world on fire. I mean, he was a star immediately for the University of Georgia. One cool note, he does come from an athletic family, but it's mostly on his mom's side. His mom, Deanna, was an All-American softball player for Utah State. So that's where he gets the athletic traits from, I guess.
Is he Mormon?
And I don't know, man. But both his parents went to Utah State. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I mean,
very random as well that they ended up in California.
I'll DM them and I'm going to DM Brock Bowers and be like, hey, man, are you Mormon? And that's the only thing I'm going to ask him.
Mormon? That is important for the evaluation. Look, I'm going to just, before we really break him down, here's my take on him. I haven't watched the quarterbacks yet, which I think are going to impact this take. But, dude, I watched Brock Bowers and I'm in love. I think that when it's all said and done, when we finish doing all these evaluations, I don't see how he's not the best prospect in this class, man. I think that the impact, and at the very least, he's going to be in the debate. He's going to be up there within the top 3 or 4 guys when it's all said and done a month before the draft comes around. I don't see why you can't be excited about a player like this because he's rumored to run in the 4.3s. and it's legit. The speed that he brings to the field as a tight end is something that
Special.
we don't see. There are maybe a couple of guys in the NFL that run at this speed and can also change direction the way that he does, run routes the way that he does, have as good a hands as he does. He is somebody that is so rare that you can say, I can draft him and we can deliberately scheme our offense so that he is getting the ball as often as possible. He is the closest thing to a difficult to stop. I don't want to say unstoppable, difficult to, because that would be very hyperbolic. Difficult to stop weapon in the NFL because he's fast, he's a good route runner. And then I just want to throw out there, we were talking about this before. He's not a great blocker because he's not a big guy. He's only 230. He's on the lighter side. But I liked the intent that he brought to blocking. I'm not going to ask him to do it every snap, but he does it well enough where it gets the job done. And maybe he can develop into somewhat of a blocker because he's at least not afraid to hit.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first thing, Joe, is that like he is a good blocker as a perimeter blocker. Like they use him on screens a whole lot, and I'm just like, okay, in that area, he is plus. He's a good blocker out in space. Inline, they don't really use him a ton inline because it's just not his game. I mean, he's 200. He's listed at 230 pounds, which means might be 220 something. Like it's not inconceivable to think that he might be legitimately, at least last year, 6'3.5", 225 pounds. Like it's very possible. That being said, you always look for special traits this time of year, right? And you mentioned the speed. Speed's fantastic. 4'4" something athlete. I think that he is going to run incredibly well. I think he's going to jump high. But Joe, the special aspect that he has in his game is his acceleration. His acceleration is different, man. He gets up to his top speed in the blink of an eye. It takes no effort. He's literally a player that you could throw a bubble screen to, and he's going to be able to break an angle as a tight end because he is just so explosive when he gets the football in his hand. Guy that you can line up in the slot. You can line him up out wide. If you're able to match him up against a linebacker on the second level, good luck to your defense because that is just not going to end up well. This kid reminds me a whole lot, and you might not be able to remember this guy because you're a young cat, but Kellen Winslow Jr. is a guy that pops in my mind so much. What? Why are you looking at me like that? What?
Well, it's just one of those names that you're like, yes, athletically, I want to compare him to him, but then at the same time, he's also a terrible person. So it's like, okay, I don't know if I want to compare him to him, but
we're just talking about talent, man. We're talking about talent.
Yes, from a talent perspective, yes. Brock Bowers will not be Kellen Winslow Jr. off the field.
Let's hope not. Yes. But what made Kellen Winslow Jr. so impressive coming out of Miami and early on in his career with the Cleveland Browns was that he was a similar lightly built mismatch weapon. I had some special acceleration, some rare ability to get up to his top speed and then be a 4'4" something athlete. I think that's what you see with Brock. Brock could legitimately, if he wanted to, play wide receiver at the next level. He could legitimately be a boundary receiver. He could legitimately be a big slot, and he would be very good in both those regards. So this kid's a mismatch weapon. He's a movable chess piece. However you want to coin him, I can't wait, Joe. We're going to have this point in this draft process at some point, like we did with Kyle Pitts, where everyone's like, can you really call him a tight end, though? And I'm going to say again, like I said at the time of Kyle Pitts, I don't care what you label him as. He's a pass catcher, and he's a really good one, man. He's a rare one. So he has been dominant for Georgia the last 2 years, was dominant this year in the process of getting to a second straight and winning a second straight national championship. Brock Bowers is a special talent at the tight end position, big slot, whatever you want to call him.
But to that point, there were concerns for Kyle Pitts being able to block it all. And look, I'm just going to be blunt. Kyle Pitts stinks as a blocker, and I'm tired of watching Arthur Smith force him to play in line. It is one of the most disgusting things to watch in modern football. But like, I almost wonder and think that Brock Bowers might be able to figure it out. Like, I think that you could maybe coach him up to not be a dominant inline blocker, but like Travis Kelce's not the best blocker, but he is asked to block in line and play on the line of scrimmage from time to time because you need to have that fold in your offense to create some level of deception. You can't always have him split out. But I think Brock Bowers can get to that level, if not maybe be a little bit better because he shows that intent. I don't even think Kyle Pitts is ever going to is ever going to reach that. But I don't know that as we tried to do this last year. You and I were big Michael Mayer fans, and he got drafted later
Yes.
than we expected because he wasn't the plus athlete, and he slid a little bit down the board as the process went on.
Still a stupid process. Still a stupid process, Joe. It's a stupid process. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But to reiterate my point from the beginning of the show, I do not see a world where Brock Bowers slides. I think that he is going to go in the same range as Kyle Pitts because there is that premium on uber athletic tight ends that can attack defenses deep. There's just so few players like this in the NFL. And the argument can be made for Michael Mayer that there are enough different examples of those types of well-rounded, not plus athlete tight ends that made him slide the way that he did.
I think that he's going to be a top 10 pick when it's all said and done. He could be a top 5 pick. It's very possible because I think that he's going to check a whole lot of boxes. The weight thing is going to be the biggest thing that people are going to talk about. I don't even care about the height thing. Like, he's probably going to be 6'3", 6'3 and a half. I really don't care, though. The weight thing, though, for some teams, they're going to look at him and say, I don't know how much I can do with a 230-pound tight end. But if he goes to the combine and he is 237 pounds, it's fine. It's fine because he's going to run fast. He's going to jump high. He's going to test really well overall. He's going to have 3 years of production in the SEC at the University of Georgia. He's going to have at least 2 championship rings on his finger. Everyone's going to look at him, and NFL GMs and scouts and decision makers, they're all going to get on board with Brock Bowers. So, yes, mismatched weapon, dynamic athletes, 3-year starter, University of Georgia, SEC Conference, championships on his finger. He's going to go top 10. I would be shocked if he fell out of the top 10 to 15 picks. Would absolutely be shocked.
Yeah, it sounds like you like him as much as I do, but or almost
like
maybe like close. Really?
You're just an SEC homer, so it sounds.
Well, you said you think you like him more than me. I said that I think he's the best player in the class.
I know, but like that you say that you say that you like him that much. There's some context because you are an SEC homer, so everything gets.
I am not an SEC homer. I'm from further north than you. Let's not forget. And I went to school even further north.
That doesn't matter.
What SEC bias do I have? What SEC bias do I have?
You do an SEC show. You love the SEC.
It's not an SEC show. It's a college football show.
It's an SEC show. Every time I listen to it, it's talking SEC football. So, yeah.
I just want to tell you folks about an exciting new partnership that we have with this channel with Underdog Fantasy. Ever since I joined, I've been having so much fun. There are so many different exciting games that make watching games during the offseason more exciting. I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but it has made it way more entertaining since I found Underdog Fantasy. And my favorite game to play so far, which I think you should try out, is Pick'em. It is so easy to play. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your Pick'em slip. Get every pick right and take home some cold hard cash. Use code HACK, H-A-C-K, HACK, like the name of this channel. Use code HACK to get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog. Go sign up. You won't regret it. You're going to have a blast. Check out Underdog Fantasy. I also want to tell you folks about our other recurring sponsor that we have on this channel, that being BetOnline, betonline.ag, which has all the updated odds, news, and anything for sports betting. It's my go-to source for when I want to be betting specifically on games. I love betting on college basketball or the NBA, especially, again, during the offseason. Always looking for more fun ways to be focused in on some of these other sports. It's betonline.ag and use promo code BELIEVE50. It's promo code BELIEVE50 to get 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.